actor often finds themselves when they get into the business, they start in the business, they start saying, oh, I got to get into SAG, I got to get into SAG, I got to get into SAG, I got to get into, or if they're doing theater, equity. And that's like the next step for them. And then they become eligible, usually in a variety of ways. We won't get into that today because it's more actor oriented, but then they're eligible for SAG, and then they are wondering, then they either get a job where they have to join SAG, or they kind of teeter-totter on SAG for a long time. And there are advantages and disadvantages of joining SAG and SAG-AFTRA. It used to be two separate unions, and now it's together. And I will say that generally it is advantageous to be in SAG. You'll get better experience on set. A lot of the money that you earn, it'll go toward your pension. You might get health care benefits, all that stuff. And that's something you have to research. But there are some disadvantages to it. And I want to also talk about that, because often people be like, should I join the union? I even have that. Well, I mean, my experience with the union is I joined AFTRA, and I was in AFTRA for a while and doing that whole thing, and then I decided to not act at all anymore, and I was behind the camera 100%, and I was just like, and so I thought I went on FICOR, but I didn't. I just stopped paying dues, which is apparently a different category of whatever, and that was... It's a little bit confusing because for the longest time, FICOR, by the way, is like financial core, and it's usually done for hardship reasons. And I did not, I just was like, I'm not acting right now at all, and I don't have any intention to act. This is when I was in Los Angeles, and I was like, ugh, I don't want to be an actor in LA. I like being a director in LA. I like being a producer in LA. I don't want to be an actor in LA. In New York, it's a different story, but it was, that was the right choice too. So I stopped, and I have since been doing mostly directing. And so what came up recently is that I was like, you know what, I kind of feel like acting again now that I'm in New York and everything. And I found out that, because I had a lot of questions about it, and I'm here to answer that, because there was, first of all, I wasn't on FICOR. I just stopped paying dues, and it changes your status in the union. But the other thing that happened is, since then, I've been like, sure, I'll be in my friend's movie. I'll have like a one-line thing. And that's interesting because I didn't know if that was looked down upon, because what they don't want you doing is joining SAG and then going on FICOR and then working these jobs that are non-union and getting paid and getting exposure. See, this is the thing. This is the balancing thing. So the SAG gigs generally are better exposure, better money, but they're fewer and far between. So you have these non-union gigs that pay a little less, the quality of the set experience is not as good, and you're not as protected. You're not, having your earnings go toward pensions and all that stuff, and you don't have the benefits of being protected by a union. And so, but you are maybe making more movies, and you're maybe, and you're helping a low budget production out. So, it's interesting because it's that balance. And it's, I'm still not out of not paying. I just stopped paying dues. I'm not acting really at this point. I do, what's the last thing? No, I'm not, I'm acting on stage. I'm not acting in camera. And sometimes I even wonder, like, here I am making a video on YouTube, and is that restricted? Because I'd say like 20 years ago that would have been like, hey, is she an AFTRA? And she's, I don't know, but there's different rules for that, and I found out that's fine, whatever. But like, because I teach, and I'm like, well, I'm earning money from that, but I'm really my own employee by being the person who's speaking on camera about producing, and it's really a marketing thing, and a teaching thing, not an acting gig or a spokesperson gig. So it gets a little bit complicated, and this new media era it has made things a little bit more complicated. But you know, I didn't want to violate, you know, SAG in a working way, but I got everybody said, you're fine. But I haven't joined yet also, or not rejoined, but started being an active member again, because I never really officially joined SAG. I was in AFTRA, so I feel like I never really said yes to them regulating what kind of movies I do act in. So, you know, I might want to have that option open to be doing movies that aren't under the jurisdiction of SAG. I'm going to also just mention, let's shift this into producing now. I'd say probably even just 10 years ago, SAG productions were kind of complicated to put together in an ultra low budget fashion. Now, I'm not saying they're easy now, but they've made it a lot easier to get your actors that are SAG, even in these ultra low budget short film things. And I want to make that and emphasize that to all the producers out there, so you can use these great SAG actors who are pros and not worry about the whole being and get SAG affiliated without a big, you know, cost or a bunch of hoops you got to jump through. That wasn't the case 10 years ago. So I think that's about it. So when going back to the original question was, should I join SAG? When I, you know, run into these actors who are eligible, because you get a SAG-E eligible, but you don't want to join, I would say put it off until you have a reason to join, unless you just have that money. Maybe you just did a big gig where you just got a big paycheck and then you want to join, and that would be good. But don't forget, you're going to be paying dues on the regular, and although I guess if you had a big gig, you'd have to be in SAG, so never mind. Anyway, so it's up to you, obviously, and you really have to weigh that, but just know that once you go into SAG, you will not be able to do those other gigs anymore, so you have to really see how much of your revenue is coming in as an actor from those non-union gigs, and also how much exposure is coming in, and how much reel is coming in from those gigs that are not union affiliated, SAG signatory. And a lot of this also has to do with location. So if you're in a more rural area, the likelihood that you're going to be having access to SAG jobs are a lot lower than if you're located in Chicago, New York, LA, Austin, Toronto, you know, Louisiana, all these places. So that's all I'm going to say about that, and I hope that's helpful. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. If you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.